Okay, so I want to show you how to create an oil barrel using Maya 2018. Obviously you can use any other version of Maya, so let's go ahead and get started and create the low poly version of our model. So first let's go to create polygon primitives and click on cylinder. So from here what I'll do is I'll press R and just scale this guy up just a little bit more. So there we go. So this is going to be our low poly barrel. So let's call this, actually let's not call it yet. I'm going to duplicate this guy, so press Ctrl D, move this guy up, press R and scale this guy down, W to go up, and then press R to scale this guy down, move it maybe around here. So this is gonna be where where you get the oil out. I think that should be good. Okay, so now we want to UV this guy. Actually, this guy looks, let's make it a little bit just longer like this. Move this guy up like that. Press R, scale this guy down just a little bit more. There we go. One more thing I'm going to do with this guy. Let's go to edge mode. I'm going to double click every other edge here. So double click every other edge. And now press Ctrl backspace to delete those edges, just so that this is a little bit low poly, so it's not too high in the polygon count. Okay, so I'm going to select both of these guys and go to mesh combine. So now it's one mesh. And now I'm going to name it oil barrel. And I'm going to make the UVs so that we can actually texture this guy. So click on this window here. And when you create cylinders in Maya, they already come with UVs. So we don't even have to do much. Well, except if you click here on the pattern, so that we can see that there's no stretching. There is stretching for this guy, so let me disable this. So here I'm going to go to UV mode and double click on it, and I'm going to press R and scale this guy sideways. Let me enable this guy again so we can see it sideways until this looks perfect, like the one and the squares look like squares. And I think that's fine. Let's do the same with this guy at the top. Press W, let me move this guy out of the way, double click this guy, and this one I'm going to scale down like this. Okay, so that's good. And finally I'm going to select all of these guys and go to arrange and layout, and then just do let's just do a layout. Okay, so Maya automatically lays out our UVs. And one thing I want to change is go to modify layout. This time I'm going to click on the options box, and for the padding I'm going to change this. I'm going to change my padding here to 1 and 1 and apply that. Actually I'm going to increase it. Let's do 5 by 5. Apply. It's just so that there's a little more space between these pieces. Okay, so that should do it. Now let's close that. So our model has UVs now. So now I'm going to duplicate this guy, so press Ctrl D and move this guy to the side. So this is going to be our high polygon version. So go to edge mode, select the top and the bottom, so double click on these edges, and let's go to edit mesh and then bevel, then set this to like 0.2, maybe less than that, 0.1, even less, 0.05. Let's try 0.03, and then segments, let's do 2, should be okay. Actually, let's do 3. Press Q to exit. We're going to do the same with this guy. So I'm going to press G and then set this to 0.03. Actually, this one could be 0.1. And then 2, and press Q to exit. Okay, and now I'm going to hold down, right click and go to face mode. I'm going to hold down the tab key and then just drag. And now go to edit mesh, extrude, and I'm just gonna press R and use the one in the middle here to scale that guy down. Press G and W and move this guy down just a tiny bit, scale it in as well, something like that. Okay, so that's the top. And now I'm going to go back to edge mode and then go to edit mesh. Actually, it's under mesh tools. Go to insert edge loop tool. I'm going to place one right about here, and then one maybe here, then one right there, and one right here. Press Q to exit. And now go to face mode. Click on one face and then the one next to it. Hold down Shift and click the one next to it so that it selects the whole loop. Same with this guy. And now let's do an edit mesh extrude. Going to use the blue arrow here just to get these guys out just a little bit like this. Click on one of the cubes, and then I'm going to scale these guys down. Okay, press Q. And finally I'm going to bevel. So select these edges and then go to edit mesh and then just bevel these guys. Set this to put like 0.4. 2 segments. Press Q to exit. And let's do the same with these guys. So just double click these edges. And press G to bevel. Set this to point. Actually, I think that looks good. 0.5. Yeah, that looks good. Press Q and exit. Okay, so this is going to be our high poly model. Finally, I want to do it on this guy as well. So go to face, hold down tab, then just drag the top ones. Go to edit mesh, extrude. Press R and scale this guy down. Press G and W, move this guy down. R to scale. Okay, and now go to edge mode and bevel these guys. So edit mesh bevel. And press Q. So there we go. Okay, so now this looks good. So that's our high poly. One last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add an extra edge loop. So let's go to mesh tools, insert edge loop. I'm going to add one right here and then one right here, then Q, and with this guy selected, press R, scale it out just a little bit. And scale this other guy, the one next to it. Okay, I think that looks good. So cool. So there we go. We have our high poly and our low poly. So let's name this one oil barrel underscore high. And I'm going to go to edge and select all of it. and then go to mesh, display, and then soften edge. And now go back to object mode. Oops, it looks like we forgot to bevel this guy. Let me see. So forgot to bevel the bottom part for this guy. Actually no, let's keep it that way and just double click the ones at the bottom and go to mesh tools and then harden edge for that. Okay, so now that looks good. Okay, great. So finally, for our low poly, what we want to do is go to mesh tools and click on soften harden edges, and there we go. So now let's do we're gonna delete history on this guy. There's a lot of history going on. Let's go to edit, delete all by type history, and now we are ready to export this meshes into Substance Painter so we can texture this guy. So let's do that. Let's export our low poly first. Let me just copy the name, go to file, export selection, and set it to FBX, and make sure the geometry is set to smoothing groups and tangent by normals, and then just name your file and then export that. Now we have to export our high poly. Let me move this guy out of the way, and when you have the high poly selected, under translate, set that to 0. So it has to be in the same spot that this guy was in. So now let's export this guy. File, export selection, and then just name it oil barrel high, same settings, and export that. So cool. So now we're going to go to Substance Painter. So with Substance Painter opened, go to File, New, and then under Mesh, select your mesh, the low poly one. Your document should be set to 1024 and then your normal map DirectX. So click OK. Excellent. So now we have our low poly here, and we want to bake our high poly onto our low poly. Oops, I'm gonna do that. So under texture setting, the texture set settings, go to bake textures. I'm going to deselect all these guys and just bake the normal map. Set it to 1024. And then under high definition mesh, import your high poly, and I'm going to set my anti-aliasing to 4x4 and then just bake it. So anyway, now that that's done, let's bake the remaining textures. So bake those. Okay, so now that's done, we can now go ahead and texture this guy. So under materials, let's look for a metal that we can use. So let's see. So we can try a bunch of different materials. Let's try the aluminum and see what that looks like. Okay. And I think that should work. We could try a bunch of different ones. There's also smart materials. So under smart materials, we can look for maybe like a rusted, like rust. Let's try this one. Let's just do this one, the aluminum. Yeah, that one. We delete that one. And now I'm going to look for, under materials, let's look for the rust. Fine, just put that at the top. And then under smart masks, let's see, we can try, let's try cavity, then just drag that into the that, so that we have some rustiness going on. We can try a bunch of different oops, that doesn't look that good. Okay, yeah, I kinda like this one. So, let me undo. So use the surface rust, then just drag that into our rusty material here, just so that it looks a little rusty. You know, it's kind of like an old barrel going on here. So one other thing I want to do, I want to make it so that it's a painted metal. So let's look for metal. And there's a painted steel that comes with substance. So let's drag that in the middle here. Okay, yeah, let's do that one. And now I'm going to right click and do a black mask. And make sure you have the mask selected, and then just paint your material on this. So just start painting it in. And I'm going to try to avoid these guys here. You can also do it in the 2D view. One thing we can do is just click here and then go to click on this so that it's under polygons, and then just drag under these guys. There we go. Now go back here to paint, and I think that looks good. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the color of the paint. It's like a little darker like this. And I'm going to duplicate this guy. Control D. This is going to be my this is going to be a different color. I'm going to set this to like a yellowish. Then under color, I'm going to change to something like that. And then for this one, I'm going to do a black mask, and then just paint this guy in here. Okay, so now that's looking good. Okay, so that's cool. I also want to add like a symbol to it. So let's go under alphas, and then let's pick something that looks like an oil-ish thing. Pick this one, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer again. Control D. This is going to be my text. I'm going to change the color to a darker one, maybe that. Then at the top, add a black mask. Then under the mask, we can add this symbol. So I think that looks maybe a different one. I don't know. Oh, let's try one of these ones. Let's try that. I'm going to undo and then just try one of these. Let's do the fire one. And then I'm going to let me change the color so it's just a little bit more transparent. Okay, so that's it. So now I want to add just a little bit more rust to this guy. So let's go back to materials and then add the fine rust. Add that on top, and now go to smart masks and let's do cavity. No. It's just a matter of trying a few different ones here, just to see which ones look better. Okay, so I like this one. I like the stain scratches. Seems to be pretty good. Also, one more thing I'm going to do is for the paint, I'm going to increase the reflectivity of it just a little bit more. Okay, and finally, I'm going to let's add another rust material here at the top. Then smart masks. Let's do the cavity one. And for this one, click on the mask editor, and then we can change how much this is affecting it. So I think something like that looks kind of cool. This is a really old barrel. It's been exposed to the elements for quite some time. Okay, and one last one. Let's try one more. Let's do rust. And now I'm going to add a black mask, and then under particles, I'm going to use the leaks. Then just drag here. Just so that we have like a leaking thing going on. That one's too much. So something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have our texture here, and then when you're ready to export it, just do a right click and then export textures and select the area where you want to save your textures. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty easy to make something like this. Obviously I would spend more time just refining it. I'm just doing it kind of quickly here for the tutorial, but yeah, if you like the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.